Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, and welcome to Retention-Led Growth. Build a business that scales without chasing new leads. My name is Colin Mahan, and I'm a director of high growth impact entrepreneurs and head of sponsorships at the Nasdaq Entrepreneurial Center. And for those of you who may not know, the Nasdaq Center is a nonprofit improving access and knowledge and entrepreneurship to advance economic progress for all. As you're going to see in the chat in just a moment, the Nasdaq Center provides programs, resources, and exceptional mentorship to help entrepreneurs fuel prosperity, no matter where their journey begins. Be sure to check out those links and resources shared in the chat. Now we're going to launch a few polls to take a step back and take a temperature gauge on how all of you are doing today. We use this information to guide the programs we provide for this global community of entrepreneurs. The first poll, how are you feeling about your business? Are you optimistic, survival, anxious? Let us know. Also, if there are specific topics or challenges you'd like us to create resources for, feel free to share them in the chat. We'll get right to it. Now, a couple more notes as we're running these polls. First, if you would like, let us know where you're dialing in from by dropping your location into the chat. We'd love to see where you're joining us for our time together today. Also, we're going to have live Q&A near the end of this session, so feel free to drop those questions using the Q&A box at any time throughout the presentation. We'll do our best to get to them all. All right, let's see where you're all coming from. Dallas, Memphis, Tennessee, San Antonio, Maryland, love it. Indiana, welcome, welcome, welcome. Minneapolis, love it. Georgia, Maryland, Atlanta, I love it. A lot of time zones. So we are stoked to have all of you here today. Now, while you're answering these last polls, I'd like to take a moment to recognize the incredible support of our corporate partners. The work that we do at the center wouldn't be possible without all the generosity and belief of our partners and funders, including Nasdaq, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan Chase, KPMG, Walmart, the Asia Innovation Hub, Wilson Sonsini, the Nareed Foundation, KKR, and BPM. We're deeply grateful for their partnership and hope you'll join us in sharing that appreciation as well. So this last poll, what's keeping you up at night? Hopefully sales is on your radar because that's going to be on our topic today. So without any further delay, please join me in giving a warm welcome to our special guest, Yemi Oluseun, founder and principal strategist at the Change Hive. Yemi, I almost nailed it. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Colin. My delight to be here. Hello, everybody. Good to see you all. Well, not see you quite, but good to be here. Hello from London. Sunny day today in London, so good to be here. Thank you again, guys, for having me.
Yeah,
I'll
looking
just get
forward
my
to it.
screen share up. Yeah, me too. Get my screen share up and we can get started. Okay, so good to be here, everybody. I like to keep the sessions very interactive, so please drop in your questions as we get through. I know Colin and the team are looking through, but I will try to keep an eye. I can't quite see the Q&A, but I'll try stop in between to ask if there are any questions, so you can ask me questions as we go through. But good to be here. Today we're talking about retention-led growth, and we're primarily looking at the leaks that stop our businesses from growing and fixing those leaks first so that we can grow in a way that's sustainable and repeatable. Because the core of this message here is that more leads don't fix a leaky business. Because if you keep pouring more water into a basket that is leaky, or pouring water into a basket that water doesn't hold, right? But if you fix the leaks, then you start to feel like you're retaining more water. Similar with business here. As a quick intro, my name is Yemi Oluseun. So background is in financial services, and these days I spend most of my time fixing revenue leaks that stop growth stage businesses from growing and getting to the next level. My approach is very like market and data led, so I hope you find that useful as we go through it today. All right, so let's get straight into it, right? There's essentially three ways to grow your business, right? You either grow by going out and doing more sales and marketing to get more customers, right? You grow by reducing the cost to serve people and selling more, and so you can get higher prices. Or you grow by retaining more of the customers you already have. So it's like, how can I already do more business with the people that know, like, and trust me, right? And I will show you today why retention is a multiplier. So there's three possible ways to grow, but where you already have existing customers that know, like, and trust you, doubling down on retention becomes one of the greatest unlocks to growing your business. And I'll tell you why. Why it matters is really just three key reasons, right? So stronger retention means that you get to improve your revenue because you get to improve your net retention rate, which then means that the lifetime value of customers, which is the LTV, lifetime value of the customers you have, can increase. And what that means is, whereas, say, your competitors can only if they get a new customer, that customer is worth to them, say, $1,000. If you're able to do better retention, you could probably take that customer from being $1,000 customer to being a $5,000 customer. So you're getting five times the value to what your competitors are getting from them because you're doing better retention, right? So improving the lifetime value means that instead of going to find five new customers, you can double down on that one and expand that portfolio and get it to be five times more profitable for you, which also means potentially you can also spend more on advertising or spend more on getting the customer because you know that long term they're worth more to your business. Hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, please do ask questions. The second reason why retention matters is it ends up shortening your life, your sales cycles, right? Because retention does done well means that you're actively going back to your customers to get feedback and writing case studies and getting reviews and getting referrals as well from your customers, right? So news is spreading fast about you. So instead of you telling people how amazing you are, you've got other people talking about how wonderful you are as well. And as we all know, when you go on Amazon to buy a product, you're not trying to get to the second or the third page, right? You literally go on the first page and you're like, who's got the best review? Or better still, who did my friend tell me was good? And I'm just going to buy that one because my friend said so. Similar, right, with your business. If you do retention well, this will be one of the things that we'll be looking to fix as part of that journey. And the third piece I kind of touched on already, right, is you find that the cost of customer acquisition could potentially drop as well if you're doing retention well, because you're proactively asking for referrals. So you're not going out to market to get new business. You're actually asking your customers, hey, I'm glad that you're enjoying our service. Who else do you know that could benefit from this amazing this work that we do? And you're getting them to refer people to you as well. So done well, retention helps you in three ways, right? It helps you in terms of improved revenue because you could sell more to the existing customers. It helps you in terms of shorter sales cycles because now you're telling a better story of the success that you're having for your customers. And so people come pre-sold, hopefully, to your services. And then third, you're getting better quality leads come through referrals from your existing customer base. So that's why this is really cool. How great that I wish I could ask you guys how great that sounds. Does that sound good? Give me a one in the chat of some sort. I want to make sure this is making sense. Yay, thank you, Courtney. Thank you, Tara. Okay, great, cool. Glad you guys are with me. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so as I just said, retention pays you twice. This is why this stuff is so good, right? Because you get cash right now because you already have customers that know, like, and trust you, and you can think about what else you can sell to them or how else you can serve them better. You can increase your revenue pot with them. And then secondly, if you serve them well, they can help you improve your brand. And that means that they're referring business to you. People are seeing the reviews of your good work and they're coming pre-sold as well. So you get paid twice, which is pretty good, right? Um, if we then start to think about, so why does it not happen? What stops businesses from doing retention, or where does retention start to break in the journey? And in our experience, we found that there are five places, and also in my research, but I didn't say this, I'm actually doing research on customer retention as well. This is how much of a nerd I am on customer retention. There are five key points where retention tends to break. And those are the points that I've got listed here. The first one tends to be the early drop off, as we're calling it, right? So the customer signs the contract or signs the paperwork, like, yay, my life is going to change. I'm looking forward to it. And then it's not quite clear what happens next. Like the handoff doesn't quite happen. So you have a sales team that have told them something, and somehow operations didn't quite get the message and the dots don't quite align and they get frustrated even before they've had the chance to get started. So that's the point. You start to lose customers, which is quite sad because it's so early in the journey. And surprisingly, we find in our research, and I'll cover this in later slides, that most retention losses or churn happens within the first 7 to 30 days. Because if you think about it, buyer's remorse starts to kick in. People are starting to feel like, oh, was it the right thing? Was it not the right thing? And they're all on heightened alert. So the quicker you can shut that down by giving people the clear roadmap of what to expect and giving them value as quickly as possible, the quicker you can have that dopamine effect and like, yes, it was the right decision. And they can go back to their friends and family or whoever the senior stakeholders are to show proof to say, yes, I bought XYZ stuff and here's the proof that it's working. I'm a good buyer. I'm a very wise decision maker, right? Because everybody wants to feel good about their purchases. So the earlier you can help your customers feel that, the better it'll be. So that's the first point that we tend to see retention leaks, right? Is where there's no clear roadmap. The second one tends to be around the customer signs. There's some form of a roadmap, but they forget about it after a while. Like they use it for the first month, 2 months. If you have especially if you have a subscription service, right? Or like a gym membership, whatever. I'm not sure. We didn't quite cover what kind of businesses people did. I saw someone had a jewelry business. And even if with jewelry, right, they used the jewelry once or twice and they forgot about your brand and nobody followed up with them and they just, yeah, it just disappeared and that routine wasn't built up. And so you lose the customer because they didn't get into the habit of seeing you regularly and building that relationship with you over time. So it became a one night stand, like a one hit wonder, and you got forgotten about like over for because there was no built-in engagement loops built into the process. The third piece tends to be around the invisible win, right? Is you're doing this amazing work, but you're the world's best kept secret, right? Because your customers know you're doing well, but nobody else knows. You're not getting the feedback from them. You're not getting them to help you write case studies. So every time you have to engage with customers, you're starting from scratch, more or less, right? You're not able to kind of showcase, here's one, two, three, four, five people that I've helped. And that's why I know it's going to be successful for you as well, right? So it's really getting them to also go from being customers to seeing themselves more as evangelists and ambassadors, if you like, for your brand. Is are you taking your best customers and getting them to tell the stories of what your service or your product has done for them and transition them from yes, someone just put what they did. Transition them from being just buyers to being actively engaged as ambassadors for your business. Hopefully that makes sense. If not, please put the questions in the chat. The fourth one tends to be around the growth stall. So you're doing great work. They're coming back all the time. They're telling you how great the work is. They're talking about it. But then we're not proactively asking or thinking proactively about what else the customer would want, right? So they came to us, they were at point A, we've gotten them to point C. But now it's like, hey, now that you're at point C, would they also like to get to F, E, J? Like what else, can we offer them to really increase the revenue size? Or the value of this customer to our business, right? So it's proactively thinking about revenue expansion, whether it be cross sells, upsells, partnerships with similar brands, because it doesn't have to be just your service, right? It could be a similar sister company that you feel like we do similar things, maybe we can work together to really cross sell each other's products and services. The fifth one is kind of the most annoying one because it's like when they just kind of go dormant in you and it's a silent churn. It's like nobody's actively monitoring the client and it just ghosts. Like it's like you just don't realize that they've churned or they've gone dormant. Um, and it's usually because there's no proactive way of detecting changes in behavior. So if a customer used to say email once a month and they haven't emailed in a while, like is there a way that you can pick up on it quickly and be like, oops, this person is losing, we're not hearing from them as regularly. It could be a good thing. It could be because they're becoming more familiar with the service and they're more comfortable. So there's not a lot of questions, but you don't want to assume, right? You want to check and be proactively on top of issues if there are going to be issues, right? Otherwise, you just have the silent churn and people just disappear. And then it becomes hard to win them back because usually at that point, they've already kind of found alternative solutions that they want to move on to. So we find these five things tend to be the reasons why retention doesn't seem to stick in organizations. So I'm curious, before we go any further, I wanted to find out which of these five do you guys resonate with? And I'm going to ask Colin, can we please put that poll up? Um, I can also stop at this point for some pre-questions before we do a deep dive on one of them. Are there any of these five that just kind of feel like, aha, this really resonates? Where do you think you're losing clients? Ah, Tara says C. Interesting. Okay. It's good to know. That's fixable. Just put that in the poll for a minute. I get another C as well. Reviews and referrals. That's an easy fix. It'd be good to know why. Can you, whilst we wait for the results to come back, can someone put for me in the chat why? Because why do you think, Tara, that that's what's causing the leak? Like, are you asking and they're not coming back, or do you forget to ask? Um, I'm curious. And I see D, flat revenue. It's good to know. Great. Okay. All right, Colin, let's know when you got the results. It'll be good to see what the results are. Okay, so it's a bit of a tie between no reviews and flat revenue. Ah, I actually selected flat revenue, not sure why referrals came up. Okay, Tara. I haven't asked current clients for referrals. Okay, good to know. Well, because that's a fixable thing, right? So I think part of the not asking, great. That's what Linda says, not asking as well. Great. Okay. I think, great. Cool. I think you'll be surprised to see how many people, for me, I forget to ask because we're in such an intimate personal experience. It feels awkward to ask, oh, but actually it could be very organic, right? If you think about it, most human beings like to feel like they're the world, like we like to be connectors. We like to, because you're doing it to help them help their network, right? So if you find something that's great, you want to tell your friends about it. So let's talk. I'll give you some tips because what I was going to do next was actually going to do a deep dive on one of these five. And I chosen to do a deep dive on roadmap. Roadmap because I feel like kind of if you do it well, you eventually kind of address the other 4 points. So let's do a deep dive on roadmap because that's what I've got on my slides. But I would also touch because I can see from the polls that referrals, we think it's kind of awkward to ask, um, is the sticky point. So we'll cover that as well. I'll give you a script of what you can say to ask because I think it could be really, it's conversational. Okay, so let's go. Thank you for the slide. Thank you for responding to the poll, by the way. That really helps me so I can see where people are. So yeah, I'd say we're going to do a deep dive on roadmap. Because of time, I didn't want to overwhelm and do all five in one slot. But you'll see how by doing a clear roadmap, you cover the 4 points well anyway, because I'll show you why potentially. Happy to be here. Such an important topic. Oh, thank you, Ashley. Um, you see how clear roadmap helps to solve the remaining four. Okay, so the first and the real key backbone of the leaks is no clear roadmap, right? Is we are not quite, we haven't quite sat down for many of us business owners to map out what the process would be like from when the lead comes in, so someone off the street hears about us, to when they become a customer, to how the delivery process would work, to when they get the first aha moment, and it's like, yay, big win. How long will it take for them to get that first aha moment? And then what next, right? And then what next? And then what next? So we haven't mapped that out. And that tends to be the reason why we then don't have a clear plan for building engagement or routine, or have a plan for asking for reviews, or have a plan for thinking about revenue expansion, or it feels even awkward to ask because you're not even sure if the timing is right to ask, or knowing when to time those conversations. So this is why this is at the heart of, I feel like, of retention, right? That clear roadmap. And as I said earlier, most churn happens in the first 7 days because that's kind of when buyer's remorse starts to set in, right? The friends, the families, people are like, oh, are you sure? The news, like, oh my God, there's a new thing that's happened. Are you sure this is the right time to be spending? And people are doubting their choices. So the earlier you can give them that first aha or that first value, the first win becomes very important. And that doesn't happen by accident. That happens by clear planning and a clear roadmap. So a symptom that you don't have roadmaps defined is when clients join, they're not quite sure what happens next. Like, yeah, I know what you said, but you said your team was going to contact me, but I haven't heard. And there's some level of confusion or uncertainty about so what next now. Um, Or the second one is around slow first wins or unclear. It's like it's not quite clear when they're going to get value. So they kind of, if say for example, I think a good example here to give is uh, personal training, right? Weight loss. It's kind of hard if you say, oh yeah, my clients typically lose, I don't know, 2 kilos in a month. A month might be a long time to see, right? But maybe in a week they start to sleep better. Maybe in a week they start to I don't know, be able to run for 5 minutes without getting out. So like what is how can you take it from being like a really long term goal instead of saying, I'm gonna help you lose, say, 5 kilos in six, I don't know how long it takes to lose 5 kilos. Lose 5 kilos in three months, which feels like an awfully long time. Can you give them a shorter version of that? It's like, what's the 1 week version? What would I look like in 1 week? And how can you hold their hands to get to that 1 week point and measure that very closely so they get that aha moment and then celebrate it visibly so that they can see that they're winning and then be clear on what the next milestone is going to be. Because too often the reason for the slow and unclear first win is our milestones are too big. We have too big a jump between when they sign and when they see the first result. And that gap becomes a gap for possible disappointment or possible drop off, right? And the third point here is drop off after purchase, right? So they purchase it and they kind of try to start, but they feel like they're not really making a lot of I'm going to cover that, Courtney. What are the good ways to celebrate their wins? We'll cover that. I'll give you some examples of brands that you know and love that do celebrate wins. So yeah, this tends to be like a symptom of not having a clear roadmap. And the fixes for it are really three things, right? Is number one, defining clearly what the first win is, right? So it's like, what's the minimum viable success? Like, we're not trying to lose 5 kilos overnight, right? But give me 1 week version. What's the 1 week version of me if I commit to your program? Like, what's the first aha moment that I'll get from you? What does that look like? Defining that clearly. And then making sure you can customize it to the specific type of customer. What I mean is, for some of us, we have different multiple ICPs, so ideal customer profiles that we're working with, right? So if you think about, say, fitness trainer, you could be working with, say, moms, new moms. I could be working with, say, professional execs. So there's different, we're working with people that want to go train for a marathon. So they're actually not trying to lose weight. They're just trying to get fit for a marathon. People that are trying to build muscle. So depending on their fitness goals, success looks different for each type of person. So it's really looking at your customer base and then segmenting them correctly and saying for each type of customer, what does their success look like and how can I shorten it without, what's the shortest possible time to achieve it for that type of customer? Because sometimes one size doesn't fit all, because part of the reasons for the delay is we it's too generic. We're trying to achieve the goals are not tailored to the specific type of customer that we're serving per time. And also, this is the case for why it makes sense to have fewer ICPs because the more ideal customer profiles, ICPs that you have, the more tailoring you then have to do, right? And then the third piece is you're actually delivering value, but the customers are not aware that they're winning. And that was Courtney's question. I'm going to show you how to make it visible, how brands that you know and love actually make it visible and they tell you that you're winning. So they feel like they're not making progress because us as humans forget our little steps that we're making. We need to be reminded of like, this is where you started, this is where you've gotten to so far. Otherwise, they start to get frustrated. So yeah, these three things tend to be the fixes for it, right? And an example of a brand that does this well, you probably all know, is Duolingo. I don't know if you ever signed up to use Duolingo to learn a language. They kind of ask you, like, first of all, what language do you want to learn? That's helpful. But also what you want to use it for, right? The scenarios you're going to be using it for, you're going to be using it to travel, for work, because you're dating somebody in that culture. What is the reason that you want to learn the language? And the reason for learning the language then tailors the examples that are given to you. So your idea of progress feels different because if I'm learning the language because I just want to go travel on holiday, it will be different to someone that's learning because they're moving there for work. The kind of vocabulary that we need to learn will be slightly different, right? So they can tailor the customer journey to fit the type of customer, right? So hopefully that makes sense. And Courtney, this is the one you were asking me. So in terms of how do you let people know that they are making progress and this is working? Here are examples of some brands that you know. So Grammarly, right, will tell you like the words they've analyzed so far since you've signed up, right? Profitwell will tell you how much you saved by using their vouchers and the coupons. Like, hey, by using us, this is how much you saved for us so far. Loom, so this is your screen recording, will tell you how many meetings you've eliminated. Now, of course, these are high-tech, fancy, complicated companies. You don't have to be this fancy and high-tech, right? Yours could be a lot more, there's probably a simpler version of this. It could be a simple thing as congratulations. So you probably have like a weekly check-in with the client. If you say, what did you say? Let's take an example of what someone's business does. I want to try and use a specific example. So Sophia says, my company offers specific solutions rather than recurring off the shelf. Oh, yeah. Can somebody tell me what they do, like an example? Because I want to use somebody's business as an example of how what this might look like and how we might then go about tailoring the customer. HR consultant. Okay, HR consultant. So it might look like, so when you sign up the clients, it's like, hey, we've had the sales conversation. It's like, yes, great. Delma, I'd like to work with you. Where have you been all my life? Please send me the paperwork I want to sign. They sign. But at the point of signing, you want to have sent them some kind of terms of reference or some kind of like next steps. Whether it looks like first, we're going to do some impact analysis, right? So I need about 4 weeks to go into your business and see uh, what your current state of play is. And then we can then come up with a plan, right? So it's what's that roadmap? And then um, by you doing the impact analysis for them, are you then going to identify savings? Like, are you going to say, hey, thank you for, so we've been working together for the last week, and in the last week, we've identified five, five potential ways. So it's like, in your case, Delma, I mean, it made the time to value, the way you recognize or celebrate what the wins are is perhaps say every week you send them a status update, a project status update to say, here is what was done this week and here's the plan for last week. And also a section is here's the things that we've achieved. So this week we achieved 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we found you XYZ savings and we found you XY ABC opportunities, right? So it could just be as a weekly project status update, right? Email that you send, right? So you get on the phone or you have weekly touch points. I would imagine you're consulting, right? So it's either you're sending weekly emails or you're sending like you're having weekly phone conversations. At those points, you want to say, so how is it going for you? And this is also a good time to ask for the referral, by the way. So going back to the referrals being a bit awkward to ask for, the perfect time to ask for it, in my experience, is when they are on the high of a win. It's like, hey, so thank you so much for signing up. So we've been working together now for the past week. And the last week, here's what we did. Here's our plan for the following week. And here are the quick things that we've achieved in the last week. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How does that sound, or how are you feeling about that? Oh my gosh, that sounds wonderful. It's like great. I feel the same as well. So once they've acknowledged that it's a win, then this is where my 3 R's or 3 R's, the way I think about it in conversation comes up. The first one is great. So based on, and this is answering your question, by the way, on referrals. I forget who asked the questions about it's a personal service. I'm not sure how to ask for it. This is how. So you show them what they've won, right? So after you had a conversation about like, yes, this is the win you've had. The next step is, okay, so given that we've achieved ABC, I recommend, so first our recommendation, I recommend that in the next 2 weeks we do XYZ. So this is what our next steps should be. How does that sound? Sounds wonderful. Great. It's like good. Um, and can I just confirm, like, this is all how you finding the services you're working for you? Would you be open to leaving us a review to share? At this point, you can ask them for a review. Like the next eyes reviews. Like, would you be open to leaving us a review so that other people like yourselves can find out and hear about our services? Usually at this point, they're open to it because they can see that it's working and there's goodwill in the air. And then finally, who else do you know that could benefit from this service, right? So you can ask for all three, depending on how strong the relationship is. You may think, I don't want to over ask, but if it's going to be a long-term type relationship, you can phase it out, right? So the first meeting, you're just asking, making a recommendation for what the next steps are going to be and asking for a review. The second time, you make a recommendation because every time you have a consultation with the client, right, you're always telling them what you achieved and what's coming next. That's what the recommendation is. And you also have You can ask you can make two asks or one ask. So it could be two asks in terms of, okay, thank you so much. I'm enjoying this. Would you be open to leaving us a review to share your experiences so far? And you may find actually one of the pushback you may find is, and this is where AI can be very helpful. You may find the client goes, "Oh, I really like to leave feedback, but I'm not actually sure what to write. Would you mind sending me a draft of something and I can change it into my own words?" In which case, that is perfect. You could just take the exact email that you've written up to say what we did last week and what we're coming up, what I recommend next steps. You could put that into an AI tool of your choice and say, here's what I've done with the client so far. Please help me draft a review based on this. And you can copy that review from AI and send it to the client. Say, dear client, thank you for being willing to write me a review. Here is a draft that I've written, but please feel free to make it write in your own words or amend it as you see fit. Thank you again for being willing. And you'll find that by giving them the text or the draft text to write, you start to get way more reviews because part of the reasons for the delay is they're not sure what to write. Like, I don't know what to say. Like, I'm not sure, or it just takes too long to write it down. But if you give them a draft, I find that most times people are happy to copy and paste it. Of course, they'll amend it and make sure they're comfortable with it. Um, and usually you also get the chance to make sure it has the keywords that you want it to have if keywords are important to you in those reviews as well. So does that answer the question about reviews? I know that was one of the questions that people had about um, I'm doing a personal service. I'm not sure how to ask for a review on something so personal. I'm trying to go back and see who asked the question. Colin, can you help me? I'm sure somebody asked that question. If it was you, can you please just in the chat tell me if I've answered the question before I move on?
Yeah, I'm scrolling the chat. Same. If they want to put it in, though, they can.
I didn't see it. I'm just going to assume I have. If I haven't, please just tell me I haven't, and I can go back and explain again. But hopefully that answers the question on how to ask for reviews, how having a clear roadmap helps with asking for reviews. If it does, give me a two in the chat. I want to make sure you guys are following before I move on. Get the two. Thank you. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Okay, good. Amazing. All right. So we've seen how showcasing this. So let's do some work then. Let's do a workshop. I'm going to get us now to define, so take our various businesses and define three things. I'm going to give us 2 minutes for this exercise, and then I'm going to have lots of time at the end for Q&A. Oh, flat revenue. Great question. Thank you so much for saying that. Okay, so I didn't cover that. Same thing, right? Same idea. Before we do this workshop, let's go back and answer that question. So for flat revenue, same idea, right? The best way to ask for things is to ask when emotions are high, like when there's a win, right? It's like, so if you have clear milestones and clear wins, so same thing, when you jump on the call or you've given value, it's like, great, like how does this match your expectation? Yes, it does. Like, well, we're really happy with the service, like wonderful, fantastic. Recommendation. So the flat revenue is a recommendation thing where is a I've now taken you from point A to B. I recommend that to you may want to consider proceeding and doing these additional things. And here is why. I'm not just recommending for recommendation's sake. Here's why I recommend you do it. To do so, you may want to consider ABCD services that we also offer or that our sister company or our partner offers, right? So you can see how you can tie that the time to value, like the milestone achievement, you can tie it to asking for either for reviews, for referrals, or also for revenue expansion opportunities. Oh, people's note takers are giving us, telling us they're about to run out. Yeah, so does that answer your question, Tiara? I'm not sure if I'm saying your name right. Does that answer your question before we move on? Yes, fantastic, great. Yeah, so this is why, yeah, great. Thank you for that. All right, so let's map it out then for your businesses because I want to make sure that you can leave this workshop today with something actionable to go use like here and now. That's important. So thinking about your business, I want to ask you three questions, and we're going to give about 2 minutes to do this exercise. The first one is, I know, of course, you do like amazing, wonderful things that take a long time to do, and time is a factor, but especially if you're even if you're a product business, it supplies because even if you sell like creams or you sell like a product, um, there's usually a lag time to start to see some result. Perhaps like the perfect result will happen in 6 months, but what's the shortest time that typically lapses before I start to see some signs that it's working for me? So, what does success look like ideally within the first 7 to 30 days? Because even if you're selling like a product, you can still have an email automation in place where you say, okay, if they buy my product from me, today is Wednesday, and I'm going to give shipping, say, a week to get there, and I'll give them about, say, 2 weeks to start using the product. So 3 weeks from now, I know that I have to set up a follow-up email. I have to have like an email campaign where 3 weeks after they buy my product, I send up an email to say, thank you for getting my product. How are you getting on? Are you starting to see XYZ? Like you want to check in the time that you expect them to start to have um, their first win, right? So it's how long does it typically take one, and what does that look like for your business or for your service? Make a note of that. Second, where things tend to fall apart with roadmap is people are not clear, or the customers are not clear what part is them that needs to do it versus the other versus you that needs to do it, right? So they buy a product that is a done with you or done completely a DIY, done do it yourself type product, and they expect that you, the service provider, would do it for them. And so that mismatch of expectations starts to create the disjoint in we're not sure what happens next, or we didn't know we had to do it. It's like, so as part of that roadmap mapping, what needs to happen by you and also by the customer for them to get the results that you expect them to get. And then three, when you map out those steps, is it possible to make it faster, easier, or is there any scope for automation? What that looks like is what I alluded to, right? Is it possible to say maybe you have like lots of different customers, right? Is there scope to start to see your customers in segments and for each customer have a slightly different success path for them because their priorities are slightly different? Does that make sense? If it doesn't make sense, put a question for me in the chat. Otherwise, I'll give you 2 minutes to quickly map that out for your business. I don't see any questions. Makes sense. Thank you. All right. So 2 minutes sounds fair because I want to give you guys some time just to give it some thought. And then we'll go back and do open up for Q&A and recap. Okay, 1 more minute. And consultant seems like the majority of client benefit steps. Tiffany, uh, yeah, possibly that could be the case, but I think there's also going to be an iterative because consulting means that you are um, there's a question to be answered. So the answers are not always clear. So you're testing the waters as well. So you might have a proposal, but of course that's why the impact analysis becomes important. You come in, you test something, and then you get some feedback, and then based on the feedback, the roadmap might change, right? Or the proposal might change slightly. Um, but yeah, but you probably will find out with experience, there's a standardized set of steps that you're doing, right? I'm not sure what kind of consulting you're doing. Um, but the part to get there sometimes depends on what the answer, what the output is that you get from the clients, Tiffany. But I think the same premise holds true, right? Is once you know what the proposals are, yeah, absolutely keep revising the proposal keeps all exactly on the same page, and also gives you a chance to check in, right? So it's every time you check in with the client and say, hey, here's what we said we're going to achieve in the next, oh, in our sprint. So the last sprint or the last conversation, that was the plan. Here's what we achieved. Based on that, I recommend. So what are the next steps? So the recommendation can be a revenue expansion opportunity or future milestones you want to do with a client. It could also be a chance to ask for reviews or a chance to ask for referrals. It's like, okay, this is going really well. Who else do you know? It doesn't have to even, sometimes, especially if you're doing like B2B consulting, it might not even be a new uh, company. It could be somebody else within the organization, right? They could have a sister company or a different department that could do with your services as well. So if you don't ask, you don't get. But I find that timing it correctly becomes important because they need to be going off something that has gone like, because they're in high spirits anyway. So they're likely going to say yes. All right, cool. So hopefully we've had the chance to really define our client's first win and we have clarity on that. So the gist of this workshop today really was just summarize to recap. Oh, they complete HR. I'm just reading the question quickly. Delma, they complete my HR. Thank you for that. Exactly. So for many consultants, we have a kind of diagnostic or scorecard of some sort, and that gives them uh, some DIY type solutions that expect to implement immediately. Great. Customer takes one immediate action via my AI assistant toolbox. Fantastic. Great. And I think what you can then do, Delma. So Delma, I don't know if you guys can all see Delma's points. So Delma is saying that um, Delma just posted the answers to her to those three questions. And if people want to do that, I'm happy to actually look at that. That's actually really good. Thank you for posting that, Delma. So I think the upgrade I imagine I want to invite you to consider, Delma, would be perhaps to send them an email to say, thank you for doing the diagnostic. Right. So based on this, um, how long will it take them to actually implement the solutions that you propose from the diagnostic tool or the AI tool? I'm not sure how long it'll take them to do that. It's worth knowing that. But then going back to say, uh, I expect that you've got XYZ value, and based on this value, would you like to do more work? So you can then use that as the trigger to propose more work or to ask for a review or to ask for recommendations. Um, Someone who says, Melvery, hopefully I said that right, clarity, relief, structure is what they do, pinpoint problem, standardize. Um, great. Um, Sounds good. I'm not sure. So what they need to do is pinpoint the problem for you and standard. Great. So, but you see the success. The only thing I'll push back, Melvery, and the points you put there, clarity, relief, and structure is ideally you want something that's quantifiable, right? Clarity, relief, structure doesn't really is not it lacks a bit of tangibility. Ideally, we'll have some kind of tangible, this is what success looks like, because it's how do you know that there's clarity? How do you know there's relief? How do you know there is structure? Um, as long as there's a way to kind of be able to show before and after of some sort. If you're comfortable with that and you can prove it, that's great. So once you achieve that, then that becomes the trigger to then reach out and start to build up on other future milestones. Um, Tara says, I'm not able to see all the comments in the chat. Oh, I think because some people are sending it just to host and panelists. Guys, you can send it to everyone. If you change the drop down to everyone, then everyone can see it. That's why, Tara, because the sent it just to host and panelists. You're welcome. Great exercise. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you, Delma. I appreciate that. All right, great. I don't see any more questions here. So based on that, as someone who served in design, build in tech. I'm a consultant and contractor. I do a discovery call for free, okay? But it requires some prep work and assessment. Should we charge? Um, Great question, Sarah. I think it depends on what your demand is like. I think if you're at a point where you've got a full book of work, then perhaps you could charge and say, hey, and have it and say it will come off, so it's deductible. Should we work together? And also, it could probably help to improve your sure rates. But if you don't already have a full book of work, maybe it's worth getting them to do some, maybe it's worth seeing how you can reduce that prep work or standardizing the type of, can you use AI to reduce the prep work? Can you send them a survey, a scorecard instead, so you can get them to do the prep work for you and give you some kind of generic ballpark number so you don't do all the admin yourself, you know? But I think you don't want to charge if it's a competitive marketplace and your competitors are not already charging and you need clients, right? Because then it becomes a friction point. All right, one more question because I don't want to run out of, oh, got lots of time. Let's see. So Q&A, you put questions in Q&A. Okay, we'll look at that. And then Jess, no, Jess, you're saying I'm a therapy practice expanding my services to include wellness program. I plan to provide wellness events to groups of folks. Would you recommend to focus on organizations to facilitate these conversations on success? I don't understand that question. Uh, I think I need more context. Jess, maybe you can reach out to me afterwards. I'm not sure. I need more context for that. Anybody else wants to post their answers to those questions? Otherwise, we can wrap up and then I can go to Q&A. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, sure. That's fine, Karen. What success looks like. Perfect. This is so. Karen, can I don't know if I can read out your answer. So Karen has sent me what success looks like for her business. It feels pretty clear and quantifiable. So she says that they've made a certain number of documentations for key workflows of some sort, um, and the client knows what they need to do as well. So there's no kind of mismatch of expectations, and she's also written out what she can automate. So I think with that, Karen, I think with that level of clarity, then you find that once you've achieved that, you can then set up a call or set up a meeting and use that meeting as a jump off to plan the next touch point, because you want to keep that momentum going. It's the lack of momentum that really breaks the retention loop, we find. Okay, so let me wrap this up and then we can open up to Q&A. Sharon, you can reach me. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I'm going to put my email up as well, so you can see it. So just to summarize this session, and then we can go into Q&A. The gist of this is for many of us as business owners, especially if you're already in business and operate and have like a few happy customers, um, we could benefit from fixing the leaks in our business, from going back to our existing customers and making sure that we're not leaving money on the table with them. And we're getting them to go from being just customers to being more brand ambassadors and evangelists for our brand. And what stops us from doing that is, first of all, it's not operationalized because we haven't defined that clear roadmap. All we feel awkward about is like, no, I don't want to ask. But the reason we feel awkward is we're not timing it correctly. Engagement or peak satisfaction with the service. If you ask at the right time, usually the answer is yes. And the third reason we don't tend to do it is the clients are like, oh, I don't know where to start. It's too much. We can help them do the pre-work by giving them a mini draft, right? Of if it's a review we want them to give us, we can draft the review with AI. If we're recommending a service, we can draft out like a proposal, what that service would look like for them and make it an easy yes. So that crossing that chasm for the client becomes a lot easier to do. Hopefully you found that helpful and useful. Hopefully you've taken away some action points that you could use in your business immediately. I'm now going to open up the floor to questions. Colin, is there anything in the Q&A box that I haven't covered?
Um, well, there are some great questions, so I'll try to run through some of the ones that you haven't totally covered the bases on. But if you have any questions that you'd still like to ask, we have 10 minutes left together, so please drop them into the Q&A box. Yemi, you talked a little bit about this, but how can you build reviews and referrals into the implementation process so it feels natural rather than an add-on?
Yeah, so time it. So link it to a win. So time it to a milestone. It's when do you expect them to have a win of some sort? And then when they have that win, celebrate the win, acknowledge it, and then at that point also ask them for it. It's like who else do you think could benefit from the service? Or would you like to share this with your friends or something? But also, if you find that that's still not working, I find drafting the reviews also helps a lot because people want to do it, but they just don't know what to write. And also it helps you because
Yeah.
you give them the keywords because there's certain keywords you might want in the thing. Um, yeah, and you're not breaking any rules by doing that because ultimately they get the final draft. They get to write it as they want. Hopefully
Yeah,
that answers your question, Yvette.
it totally does. And then to build off that a little bit, Yvette has a similar question. How do you get them to become a case study for your business or be willing to add their logo to your website as a client?
Same, ask them. It's a yes or no kind of, but you you ask for it, right?
Yeah.
And especially if you kind of say, hey, we're a small family business, right? We we grow when we grow by people we grow when our customers share our good work with their friends and family. Would you be open to share? Or would you be able to refer us? But again, you want to try and make it easy, right? Make it as copy and paste easy. So if you want them to refer you or you want them to become a case study, send them the questions before, so they can prepare. If you want them to write a review, send them some kind of blob of some sort that they can just amend to reduce the amount of thinking they have to do. So it's an easy yes, but time it to something that feels good for them.
Awesome. Question from Courtney here. I struggle with getting reviews that show the ROI of working together. What's a good way to do this?
Draft it for them. That's what I'm saying. Because many
Yeah.
people forget. They don't know what to write. It's like, oh, Courtney's great. I like working with her. Please work with her. Full stop. Done. And that's their review. It's like, oh, I know you said I'm a good person, but that doesn't really help what I'm trying to say. So you find that because you've already taken the time anyway to write what you've achieved and you're timing it to that, you're sharing the milestone with the client. Say, congratulations, here's what we've achieved in the last 3 weeks. Would you be open to leave a review? Like, yeah, I'd like to, but I don't know what to write. Like, great, no worries, I've got you. You copy what you've told them you've achieved, put it into AI and say, AI, act as the customer, please draft a review based on this stuff
Mm,
and send it to the client, and then they can adapt it.
perfect. I have some great reviews on Google and my website from my clients, but I have no issue asking for reviews, but how do I transition to asking directly for referrals?
Amanda, same way as you ask for reviews, it's like, so who else do you know? I just assume they know somebody's like, not do you know, who else do you know? Because you think about it, like birds of a kind flock together, right? So if they're an XYZ kind of business, they probably have other friends that are in the same kind of business as well. So assume that they know somebody. It's like, who else do you know that could benefit from our services?
Mm,
And yeah, and depending on the nature of the report, they might feel comfortable just sending you the email and say, oh, here's my friend, you can contact her. But ideally, you want them to do an intro for you, like, send you an email to them and copy you on it. Um, Again, depending on your industry, they might want some kind of kickback or some kind of referral fee or that kind of stuff. But I find many people don't actually need that. So it's more just bragging rights to kind of show that they're well connected. It's like, who else do you know? It's like, oh yeah, I should know somebody because you assume they know somebody, so they feel like, oh, I need to show that I know somebody, right? There's
mm.
and so playing to like the human ego a little bit.
Oh,
But you're
that's
doing
good.
it at a time when they're happy with your service as well. So who else do you know? It's like you assume I know somebody. So
Yeah, that's super
does that answer your
smart.
question,
Yeah, no, that's super smart.
Amanda?
Another question here that came through the chat. How do you re-engage clients who have become inactive?
Um, I think this is why you need to have a CRM tool because hopefully you catch it early so they don't get inactive. But if they're already inactive, I think it's reminding them the work you've done together, right? Is going back and seeing what you actually achieved. It's like, hey, XYZ person, we worked together in 2014 and we achieved blah, blah, blah stuff. I was looking through your company and I saw that there might be opportunities to do one, two, three stuff. Would you like to get on a call, and let's explore. Um, just say hello. But yeah, I think reminding people like the work you did together tends to be a good way to remind them of the value you offer. But sometimes it might take longer because they found an alternative. So you then need to wait for them to get disgruntled with the alternative.
Mm. Another question here from an anonymous attendee. As someone who's served in design, building, and tech, I'm a consultant and a contractor. I do a discovery call for free, but requires some prep or assessment. Should we charge for that?
Well, we
Most
answered
people
this
want
one.
to.
We answered this one, and I think I said that this
Oh, yeah.
depends on if you have demand, if you've got a full book of work. If you do, then yeah, but possibly you can. But if you're still building your book of work and you might want to consider getting them to do the work instead. Like, can you ask surveys? Can you use AI to ask questions? Like, perhaps you don't have to do all the pre-work that you're doing um, if you automate and ask more broader questions. So zoom out a bit more. Maybe you're probably going too deep, too fast. Like if you broad questions.
Mm, super helpful. Well, we are almost at time, but Yemi, where it's at that moment where I'm going to ask you for the key takeaway. If somebody was going to dial into this call in the last 3 minutes, what's one golden nugget that you want people to take away today after learning from you?
Wow, pressure. That. So to fix the leaks and then scale. So fixing the leak means really being clear on the roadmap. So being clear on what your process is going to be and documenting that. The clearer you are on that, the easier it is to then grow and scale the business. Because too often as business owners, we focus on getting more and more business through the door, but we can't really retain it because we're not clear on the process. So they come in and they're frustrated. So we lose
Mm,
them as fast as they come in. But if we have a clear process, then all these other things start to build up.
amazing. And if they listen to this talk, they're going to be great. So thank you so much, Yemi, for joining us today for sharing your insights, for doing real live workshopping with our attendees today. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me. Hopefully, you guys found that useful. Yeah,
Yeah,
see you
everyone's
soon.
saying love the roadmap. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, to our
Okay.
attendees, thank you so much for joining us. We have a bunch of programs coming up in the coming months, so check those out in our follow-up email. But Yemi, I really appreciate you. This has been super valuable, and look forward to staying in touch. Thanks again for joining us.
Thank you for having me, guys. Have a good one. Take
Alrighty,
care.
and to everyone joining us today, we look forward to welcoming you online with us soon. Hope you have a great day, everyone. Thanks again.